Hi, my name's Shalina and welcome to Biopsychology 101. Before we start with our lecture, let's start with an activity.
See, Jade is right-handed, but in this activity, she will use her left hand. In this demonstration, we will probably notice that the drawing is more childlike than usual. It is as if some part of our brain stored the way you used to draw as a young child. Isn't that right, Jade?
Explanation for why she wrote like as if she was a child using her left hand instead of her right hand is not yet to be explained, but listen further in this video for you to find out.
Why do we have brains at all? Plants survive just fine without them, so do sponges. Even if they don't act like animals. There's this thing, it's called the sea squirt. It swims and it has a brain during its infant stage, but when it transforms into an adult, it attaches itself to a surface, becomes stationary filter feeder, and digests its own brain. As if it's saying, now that I've stopped traveling, I won't need this thing anymore. Well, what would be the value of seeing, hearing, if you couldn't do anything about it? Finding food or chewing it requires movement, and so does talking. Understanding speech wouldn't do much good unless you could do something about it. A great brain without muscle would be like a computer without a monitor. You need something to display it with.
All animal movement depends on muscle contractions. There are three types of muscles. First is the smooth muscles. Second is the skeletal muscles. Third is the cardiac muscles. Smooth muscles are the muscles that control the digestive system and other organs, like in this picture. The second type of muscles are the skeletal muscles, which control our bodily movements. Last type of muscles are the cardiac muscles. They are what we called special muscles because they are only found in the heart. For example, the eye muscle have a ratio about 1 axon per 3 muscle fibers. Unlike the bicep muscles, that 1 axon corresponds to 100 muscle fibers. So to that, due to the fact that the eye muscles correspond to 1 axon equals to 3 muscle fibers, and the bicep muscles with 1 axon to 100 muscle fibers only means that the eye moves more precisely than the bicep muscles.
What we are going to tackle next is the neuromuscular junction. So what is the neuromuscular junction all about?
It's a synapse between an axon and muscle fiber. Axon releases acetylcholine at the neuromuscular junction, and the acetylcholine always excites the muscle to contract. Each muscle makes just one movement.
muscle makes just one movement contraction. It relaxes in the absence of excitation, but it never moves actively in the opposite direction. Moving a leg or an arm back and forth requires opposing set of muscles called antagonistic muscles. Here we have an example of antagonistic muscles. Her right arm moves counterclockwise while her left arm moves clockwise.
There are two types of antagonistic muscles. First is the flexor, and second is the extensor. The flexor muscle allows you to move your hand up to your shoulder, while the extensor muscle allows you to extend your arm forward. As we have mentioned, in order for us to move, we need acetylcholine in our body and importantly in our muscle fibers. With the lack of acetylcholine, we are subject to have a disorder, autoimmune disorder called myasthenia disorder. This is the lack of acetylcholine in our muscle fibers that won't allow us to move.
A deficit in acetylcholine or its receptors in the muscles impairs movement. This is called myasthenia gravis. Myasthenia gravis is an autoimmune disease in which the immune system forms antibodies that attack the acetylcholine receptors at the neuromuscular junction. Whenever anyone excites a given muscle fiber a few times in succession, later action potentials on the same motor neuron releases less acetylcholine than before. For a healthy person, a slight decline in acetylcholine poses no problem. However, because people with myasthenia gravis have a loss of many receptors, even a slight decline in acetylcholine input produces clear deficits.
Imagine you're a small fish, and also imagine that you're a big fish. So you would most likely think that the small fish moves faster than the big fish due to the muscles that it has. And the big fish moves slower than of the small fish. Your temperature is equal as the water around you. And the muscle contractions, being chemical processes, slow down in the cold. So when the water gets cold, presumably you will move slowly. Strangely, the thing is, you won't, because you will have to use more muscles than before, but you will swim at about the same speed. Mom, this is one of the topics next that we are going to tackle, which are the slow muscles and the fast muscles. Fish has three kinds of muscles. First is the red, next is the pink, and there are also white muscles. White muscles produce the fastest movement. Pink muscles are intermediate, in speed and the rate of fatigue. At high temperatures, a fish relies mostly on red and pink muscles. At colder temperatures, the fish relies more and more on white muscles. Alright, let's stop imagining ourselves as fishes. As you can see, humans and other animals also have these kinds of set of muscles, which we can call the fast twitching and the slow twitching muscles.
Our bodies has two types of fibers, which are the fast twitch fibers and the slow twitch fibers. The fast twitch fibers. We rely on them for big contractions and rapid fatigue movement. We rely on our slow twitch fibers due to the fact that they are intermediate fibers for non-strenuous activities and with less vigorous fatigue. This is according to Hennig and Leno, 1985.
As you can see, we rely on our slow twitch muscles for non-vigorous activities. It means that for a long period of time, you can just go and on with talking. And you can also walk for the same speed without tiring that much. But when you try to run a steep hill, you will most likely need your fast twitch muscles because it requires more contractions and more fatigue. Take for example, this video of volleyball players playing. What do you think do they need for their muscles to react? First, they need acetylcholine, and what fibers do they probably require? I'll give you a time to ponder. That's right, they need fast switching muscles so that they could perform vigorous activities and have more muscle contraction to refrain from sprains and other injuries. Slow twitch fibers do not fatigue because they are aerobic. They use oxygen during their movements. You can think of them as pay as you go. Vigorous use of fast twitch fibers result in fatigue because the process is anaerobic. Using reactions that not only require oxygen, they do not require oxygen. The next thing we're going to tackle are proprioceptors. Proprioceptors are receptors that detects the position or movement of a part of the body. In these cases, a muscle. Muscle proprioceptors detect the stretch and tension of a muscle and sends messages that enable the spinal cord to adjust to its signals. There are two muscle proprioceptors. First is the stretch muscle, and second is the muscle spindle. The stretch reflex muscle allows you to stretch and not only produce contraction, but the muscle fibers contradict the action of the stretch muscles. I hope you have learned a lot in today's lesson from the three types of muscles, which are the skeletal, the smooth, and the cardiac muscles, up to the proprioceptors. As you can see, the connection of the brain and the spinal cord and its accordance to our movement is very important. Without our brain and our spinal cord, we aren't able to move. And without movement, we can't continue on our daily lives activities. It's not easy to learn about the brain and the spinal cord and its connection to our movement, but I hope in this video that you learned a lot. Thank you for attending this lesson of Biopsychology 101. Hope to see you next time, and I hope you really learned a lot.